Yeah, so I heard some sad news today, this morning on the way up here. Do you know who I mean when I say sweet, sweet Connie?
Yep, I do not.
So we have a Matt. We don't have Craig. No. So if you're from Little Rock, you might have heard Sweet, Sweet Connie. She's a kind of famous groupie from the 70s, 60s, and 70s who, did groupie things whenever rock bands roll in town. Her biggest claim to fame was, I think it was Grand Funk Railroad. Actually wrote a song about her. Sweet Sweet Connie. She had the whole show, and that's a natural fact. And then she claims that she was propositioned at one point by Bill Clinton, or claimed that she was propositioned by Bill Clinton. So that's,
I'm sure he could neither confirm or deny that.
the reason he lives in New York now. But yeah, no, she died at 66. So,
It's pretty young.
R.I.P. Sweet Sweet Connie.
As I approach that age,
Yeah,
it's pretty young.
no, it's definitely it's definitely not old age. So it sucks. She was a little, like I said, a little local Little Rock legend. So R.I.P. So, well, how are you guys doing today?
Good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Everybody ready for your week? Kicking it off the right way? Oh,
yeah. Never ready for the week.
Thanks for bringing up the rest of the week.
I got to go home and mow my yard today. That's how I'm going to get ready for the rest of the week. And it's about as fun as you think it sounds. Well, hey, everybody. This is episode 181 of the Southern Fried Geekery podcast. As per usual, I am Caleb Alexander McKenzie.
Matt Trogdon.
And I'm Craig Lance.
And it's good to be back at the table with you guys. This week, this past week was long. I didn't like it. I was not supposed to have to do things, and they made me do things. So,
yeah, that's a thing that happens.
That's where they get you.
Quit volunteering yourself.
No, this was more work stuff. So
I mean, technically, you volunteered yourself for work too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I volunteered to be employed.
The other option, of course, is starving to death.
Yeah, right.
It's all choices.
I keep telling Raj, like, hey, just say the word. I'll be a house husband. Like, maybe the laundry's gonna get done more often if you just let me be a house husband.
Maybe not.
He doesn't know that. I'm trying to leverage what I got here.
Does.
I'd make such a great house husband.
Probably not.
I don't want to go outside ever. So, but we're not here to talk about the week and how it was or was not. I mean, we could be, but we're here to talk about comics, right?
Yeah, usually.
That's what I heard.
That's the goal. That's the game plan.
Yeah.
So, any cool comics read this week?
Yeah. I read chapters 945 through 955 of One Piece.
Oh, okay.
And found out I'm still about 50 chapters behind.
Jesus.
So I got that read as part of my short stack. I also read the Silver Coin #5, which wrapped up this series. This one's titled Covenant. It's by Michael Walsh, drawn by Michael Walsh. I believe he drew all of them, right? And then had different writers on them. With colors by Tony Marie Geffen. This was a really interesting story. It gives you the origin of the coin.
Okay.
Which Caleb, I think you just read the first one.
No, I've read all of them.
Read all of them?
I've stayed up to date.
Okay. Yeah, so this, I really enjoyed it. Gives you a witch story in it. And if you've watched the Fear Factor or Fear Street movies on Netflix, it kind of resembles the Fear Street movie.
I was like, oh my God, is it like Fear Factor?
No.
We're going to have to eat bugs in round 2.
No. Yeah, so it's just got some disturbing imagery in it, and it's got a witch that curses the coin because somebody she's been helping in town actually turns her into one of the witch hunters, basically, and she curses the silver coin that he paid the woman to turn her in. So.
I'm up to date on it. I've been reading the whole thing. It's really cool seeing Michael Walsh, take this theme that runs through all the book of the silver coin and just have different writers create stories, and they're not interconnected, and each of them has kind of a different mythos, and so it's really cool to see his kind of interpretation from each writer. I think Zardosky had a good one.
I've enjoyed
others.
All the stories.
Yeah.
Some are better than others, of course, whenever you have an anthology type series. But, if you kind of look at it as kind of a Twilight Zone-ish type thing, it's interesting in that sense. And again, for me to be interested in an anthology series, it's got to be pretty decent.
Right.
So, then I also read Deadly Class number 47 by Rick Remender, Wesley Craig, so on. Lee Ruffage does the colors. I mean, it's the same team that's been on it for the past 46 issues. It took another time jump, and it's now in the 2000s.
Okay.
So, I'm waiting to see which great music from the early 2000s that Rick Remender points out. But,
I mean, it's got to be Manson, right?
Yeah, Maria, and for this book it does.
Yeah.
Maria and Marcus are together, but you don't know that for the first, 21 pages of the book. She's lost a hand. You don't know how she lost her hand. And she's addicted to heroin, and most of the book is a trip of her on heroin.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
took a bad turn about 1999.
Yeah, they had a rough life. I mean, too. Took a bad turn about 1999. Is that when it all fell apart for you, that? Yeah. So, yeah.
Nice. Notice how his interest kind of waned once he got past Wes Craig. He's like, yeah, no.
Nah, honestly, it's because I forgot to mark the page that had everybody's names in it.
I do that all the time.
And I was scared that it wasn't going to be on the first sheet.
So my short stack, starting with Marvel, I read The Trial of Magneto, #1. This is by Leah Williams, Lucas Wernick, and Edgar Delgado. I almost didn't buy this, but I just made the last minute decision to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did. This was really good. Man, things just heated up with Magneto specifically. So that was a big surprise hit for me. I wasn't really all that into it.
I guess I missed that one came out this week, so I need to grab it.
Oh yeah,
definitely. You do, man. Also, in my short stack, I read the second issue. It's from Ablaze for the Sumerian, the Man Eaters of Zambula. This is the second and final issue, wrapping up the story. I loved this one, man. Have y'all read this one?
So I've read the first issue. I haven't gotten to the second issue. Man. It's still in my stack. So they're only doing 2 issues with that one?
This is a 2-issue story.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a lot of them have been 2-issue stories, so I wasn't surprised.
For some reason, I was thinking there were mostly 3, but...
So this one is as good to me as the Frost Giant's Daughter.
Ooh, okay.
Version they did.
Yeah.
It's just, man, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's just got the personality elements that's missing in Marvel. As much as I do like overall the Marvel presentation of Conan,
right?
This one just feels, it feels right from the pages of Howard, which they claim to be.
I was going to say, have you read these particular original stories? And they're lining up pretty well.
Well, some of them have.
Yeah.
Some of them have. This one does very well. The art was great. Just a solid story. I love the ending, by the way. Love the ending.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to try to get to it tonight. Yeah. It's on like I said, it's on my stack of stuff to read at home.
And then thirdly on my short stack from Image is number 18, the final issue of Ascender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. He nailed the ending, as one would expect that he would. So I recommend, once again, Ascender by Jeff Lemire. If you haven't been on it, it just wrapped up at 18, so
and you should read Descender as well.
Matt is staring directly into my eyeballs as he says this. Well, he's actually not speaking to anybody on the podcast. He's just talking to me.
Yeah, you need to read Descender and Descender together.
Yeah, no, I read the first arc of Descender. I need to finish that up. Just one of those things. I wasn't on it when it first came out, and because there's just so much to read, I just haven't gotten around to it.
And that's fair. It's just to me, it seems like it's right up your alley with Dustin Nguyen's watercolors, which I know you love. But then
I feel like Descender really got some limelight stolen from it, so to speak, because Saga was at its height at that time.
Yeah,
and they're similar, vaguely similar stories. So I feel like some of the steam was, kind of taken from Descender at the time.
Yeah. So Jeff Lemire being Jeff Lemire, he takes and instills this humanity in these robots that most people can instill in their human characters and books. So,
he's one of the best. I stand by my statement made last week. He's a living legend as far as people who craft medium go. Well, I'm glad that
Is that all your books?
That was 3.
that was
Oh,
that
okay.
was
I
the
thought that was two.
triad. I'm glad you read The Trial of Magneto because that was also the book I was going to talk about. But you said everything I was going to say. I will ask, which cover did you get?
I got the cover that I picked up.
Okay. Is it just kind of the okay? Yeah. So you got the main character by Valerio Schiti. I grabbed the Mark Brooks cover that's got Magneto actually like holding Wanda,
Hmm.
like cradling her in his arms.
Yeah,
Like that is such
that's good
an
cover.
amazing cover.
I can see why you got that being the one to stand there.
Oh yeah, well, and that's the reason. That's the reason I picked it up. So I'm not reading. Is it X Force or X Factor that first kicked off in?
X Factors. This part of the story
Right.
occurred in X Factor.
Yeah, during the Hellfire Gala.
Hmm.
So yeah, I did grab that issue, but I haven't been reading it. Like I'm only jumping in because it's Wanda, 'cause she's my girl. So like I got to see what's going on with her. Art was gorgeous, man.
Yeah,
Like
right.
just hit after hit. Um, so yeah, that was book one on my short stack. Also got a little mini call it graphic novella this week that came out. It's I don't even know how I can pronounce it. It's Malrith Vallis, Mawrthvallis. It's by an artist named Ep.HK. That's just what they call themselves. This is really cool because it's a silent comic for the
Hmm.
most part. There are no it's pure sequential storytelling. So the cool thing about those things is you can kind of make up a narrative as you go, you know, for it to be what you want it to be. But what you get out of this is there is a they're on Mars, and Mars has been colonized, and there is a young woman who's a fighter pilot, and she gets activated, so to speak, when somebody breaks in to the wherever like the base that they're at and tries to steal some stuff. Well, she goes and chases them, but they call her back, but she disobeys orders, and crash lands and figures out a whole like that there's this whole like Stepford Wives cloning slash the Matrix like thing happening on Mars that she didn't know about, and that they are keeping secret and a cover up is going to happen. Really great. I love EPHK's art. I looked at them up so I could figure out, hey, how do they work? How do they do this? The line work at least is done traditionally, and they are repped by Inky Knuckles. So if anybody wants to pick up some of the artwork to own for your very own, you can. You just go to inkyknuckles.com and you will see EPHK's little section on there. I did not buy a page because all the good ones that I wanted were taken. So but no, it's fun. So I'm gonna flip this over here so y'all can flip through it while we're just chit chatting. And then last but certainly not least, I grabbed a book from a few weeks ago, and I think you guys read it. It's The Defenders, #1. This is by the great Al Ewing. Javier Rodriguez did the lines on it, and Alvaro Lopez hooked it up on the covers. Did either of you read this?
Negative.
No? Oh man, I thought it was great. So if you read Marvel Comics 1000, did that come out before Corona or right?
Yeah, it came out not too long ago.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it feels like it
was
wasn't long
during
ago.
COVID, but
This kind of
I like the timestamp he used. Is that before Corona?
yeah
BC?
yeah right.
There was no before Corona.
It doesn't feel like it. It feels like we've been living in this weird bizarre land forever. But this kind of picks up right where that left off, so to speak. If you were tracking what Al Ewing was doing during that, you get some really cool characters that are going to be part of this Defenders team. Obviously, you've got Doctor Strange, but you get the Masked Raider who played heavily into that Marvel Comics 1000. The Silver Surfer shows up. Harpy, Betty Banner, she's going to be part of this group, and then a character that I'm not very familiar with named Cloud, which is it's a character that apparently was made by the Cosmic Cube, or is like kind of like a sentient version of the Cosmic Cube, similar to what they had in in Nick Spencer's Captain America run with the kid. But this is not the same kid that like took over a pair of twins. I don't know. I thought it was brilliant. The art is incredible. I can't wait to see what they do with it. They play with a lot of wonderful colors. It's bright. It's something completely different than what we're seeing in either Guardians of the Galaxy or Immortal Hulk. So I'm down to see where this goes. I really really enjoyed this first issue. If you didn't read Marvel Comics 1000, you might be like, well, I don't know what's happening here. What's going on? And that's fair. They didn't make it necessarily easy for the reader to just pick up and run with it. But you know,
Al Ewing's on a lot of books.
yeah,
He's got another one coming out. He's writing a new Cable book.
yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
That concerns me.
you know,
Scared he may thin himself out too much. I
That
mean,
happens a lot.
it does.
it does, but the flip side of that is, if you think about it, these may be scripts that he already had written, he already had in the can, and they've just been waiting for the artist to catch up. So maybe he's
Could be.
delivering full scripts to the artist. So I'm hoping that's what it is, because I'm kind of like you. I don't want to see Al Ewing burn out.
Some writers handle it very well, some don't.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I feel like Al Ewing's got his stuff together, or at least that's the way, when you listen to him in interviews or you kind of follow him on social media, it seems like he's kind of got he's tracking what's going on. So
He's certainly writing good stuff up to this
Oh,
point.
yeah,
so you
absolutely.
can't complain about it.
Great
So,
stuff.
yeah, he's one of the strongest writers at Marvel. It feels like. I mean, not only just with his Mortal Hulk work, but everything he's doing is just fun. It's fun to read. Playing with a lot of different stuff, and writes Doctor Doom really, really well over in Guardians of the Galaxy. Has a lot of fun with that character. So, all right, cool, good stacks. Lots of comics to read. I really need to go back and get caught up on
on
Descender.
One Piece, yeah.
No, yeah.
I don't know that I don't, even if I wanted to, I don't know that I could ever just extend that amount of energy.
He
to
just
get caught up
laughs. See,
on
if you
that.
start and then you start telling him, "Hey, I made it up to issue 10," he's gonna be.
It's only
Issue,
900
He's
gonna mock you.
more to go.
So
nobody's worse than Jerry. Nobody is worse than our
Jerry
buddy
pretty
Jerry
much
on
beat me
this.
into submission
Yeah.
watching One Piece. So
So are you still watching it regularly too? Or?
no. Honestly, I should, because I'm so far behind on the manga right now that the anime has caught up to where I'm at in the manga.
Okay.
So I should watch it again, but I may go back and what I'll tend to do is sit down and read a chunk at a time.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same with the anime. I'll occasionally go and watch a chunk at a time as well. So.
Wasn't it like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe even 4 years ago, where he was like, "Hey, we reached the halfway point of the story," and everybody was like, "You've written 700 episodes."
Yeah, about 5 years ago, he came out and said that he had 10 years worth of material left.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, he came out and said he's got about 8 years of material left. So he seems to be on track for what he said. So,
yeah.
I mean, at this point, we're just myself. I'm hoping he makes it to the end, because he's already cut back. Japan's going to have to address this problem they have with their manga creators at some point, that they expect so much out of them.
Yeah.
They're putting out a full 17, 18 page chapter every week. Now they're not colored,
Right.
but that's a lot of work every week.
Well, and I don't know about Oda, but I know a lot of the creators, they just do like the forefront line work, the characters, and they do the.
He does have a team of
I was gonna say they
assistants
send it
now.
to other people to do backgrounds.
He
and everything
basically has had a few scares where he's been in the hospital from overworking himself. So
Yeah.
he has slowly added more and more help,
Mhm.
and he only does 3 a month now.
Okay.
He takes 1 week off a month, so there's that. But you just had and I'm sorry I don't know his name. Our manga people are going to kill me, but the creator of Berserker just passed away.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty big deal. So
Yeah, I remember that. That's
at some point they're going to have to address that you cannot expect that kind of work week in and week out from these guys. And,
yeah. I mean, dudes are working 20 hours a day to produce.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of any profession. Like, if that's how you have things going, it's
eventually
not
you're
going to
kill
work out.
the
Yeah.
people doing it. So,
Right.
yeah. And the thing is that, Oda's got more money than, God at this point. He could quit anytime he wanted.
Well, I was going to say, not only that, but he's the one who crafts and creates a story. Like, he could just end it tomorrow if he wanted to. So obviously he's doing it because he does have a story he wants to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, is what most writers will tell you.
Right.
Is, well, you can't end the story. The story ends itself.
Right.
So, yeah, he's definitely has in plans. He knows exactly where it's going. For him to know how much time he still has left in it. So, anyways, yeah.
I wonder if he has it. I wonder if he has it scripted out and written down like long form. If he's working ahead of himself as far as the art goes, kind of like we do. You do when you work in tandem here.
Yeah.
Or if it's just each week he not doesn't do it by script, he just works it straight out of the page because if something were to happen, it's is it going to be the situation that he's left scripts and left stuff for everybody else to finish it up
To
for
be
him?
quite honest, I hope I hope number one, I hope nothing happens to
Right.
it. But like Berserker, I hope they don't finish it.
Yeah.
I hope it just ends. I mean, it's okay to not have. I'd rather not have an ending to it than have somebody else create an ending to it.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Well, fingers crossed we don't have to worry about that. He'll just keep working forever. If he wants to, doing what he loves.
what? Yeah, do your thing.
Hopefully his health will hold out and he'll give you all the story because we'll be able to hear Jerry scream from here. Um, It'll just a high shrill
Yeah.
breaking the sound barrier.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So fingers crossed. Keep that man safe. Matt's pissed. Matt just
Matt
cleared
does
the
not
table.
want us talking about manga. He's going to be really happy when we get to my book of the week.
Matt just swept everything off the table. He said, "Fuck it, he doesn't want it anymore." He's wearing a Hulk shirt, so it fits. He's bringing that to the forefront. No, Matt's not pissed. Matt's happy. He's smiling. You can't see it. Look at him. He giggles. Matt giggled. Never happens. As always, we got together this week. Well, I say we. I was not. I was available via text, but my co-host here, my brethren, got together on a Wednesday or a Thursday at the comic shop, and they perused the wall, and they decided to grab a book that we had not read before, a new book, a new offering, and give it a chance. And they said, "Hey, let's read this book called Second Chances, and see what it's about." And we did, at least all together, and we're going to tell you a little bit about it like we always do, give you our little perspective. Sometimes we all agree on these books, sometimes we all disagree, but it doesn't matter. It's just fun. It's cool to see what each other thought. So this week, like I said, it's a book called Second Chances. It's written by Ricky Mamone, drawn
etc.
drawn by Max Bertolini, and then letters by DC Hopkins, published by our buddies over at Image Comics. So before we get too far into this, number one, I want to toss out a spoiler warning. If Second Chances is in your stack or it's high on your
You won't
pile
get a
of
second chance.
I did. That was
And you
See-
definitely won't get a third chance.
this time with puns. This guy. But spoiler warning. So if you haven't read it yet, go do so because we are going to talk about it. You can't really dip into this stuff without spoiling a few things. So that's the whole point. You're listening to a comic review show, right? Feasibly, one would think.
It's your own fault.
Yeah, you did this to yourself, basically. So what did you guys
In fact,
think
why
about
are you even listening to us at this point?
I didn't even think these microphones were on.
it's just flavor, just texture for the room.
It's really just us three talking to the air.
I don't even publish this stuff anymore. I'm just tricking you guys. It's a long con. But what did you guys think about Second Chances? How to treat you?
It's a good book.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Love the art. I really enjoyed the story. I didn't know anything about this book before Matt suggested that we read it. Came and picked it up yesterday, read it this morning. Really, really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed the art. I thought the art was spectacular. The story, it's just not my cup of tea. There's nothing wrong with it. I just didn't.
It's just a crime noir story.
It's a crime noir story mixed in with weird
more crime noir?
assassins. I don't know. I just not my. I like
He
not
doesn't
not my
like
cup of
female
tea.
assassins. What is it about vaginas that bothers you? Ken?
Well, number one, I'm a gay man, so if we're going to get into that, there's going to be about 7 years of therapy that we're going to need to work through. No, I thought it was fun. It was a fun story. It's just not something I'm going to pick up the second issue on.
It's female assassins wearing Oni masks.
And I think that's great, and I think it looks wonderful. I think it looks. I think it looks wonderful.
Art's subjective, and miles will vary depending on your taste.
So what is this that made this book that has made our mileage vary depending on taste? Well, so let's see that segue. Just going to force that in there.
Over here.
So the book focuses on a guy who's kind of a fixer, so to speak. Like his job is to when powerful people, people who kind of run the world behind the scenes, have problems, they call him to kind of take care of it. It seems like he's the one who comes in to clean up bodies, to make things disappear. Um, you're
No,
shaking your head no. Okay, so
it's not powerful people. It's ordinary people that he makes a point of not dealing with those kinds of people.
okay, I missed something here.
Yep.
So
If you've seen the movie Eraser,
Yeah,
it reminded me of a lot of Eraser.
yeah,
Like these are people that
yeah.
need to start a new. They need to start a new life or a new beginning because something has happened to them or they've made mistakes.
Yeah, he gives them a second chance.
yeah, he gives them a second
But
life.
it's not for the rich and powerful. It's not for people that have gotten themselves in trouble with the law. It's not. It's he makes a point of not helping murderers and that sort of thing.
Well, maybe I've been watching too much Sopranos then, because the way I interpreted this story was, these are people who have done bad things in their own life, whether they're rich and powerful. But at some level, you have to be able to afford this kind of service. So you've got to have some type of clout and some type of money. So maybe I'm just reading too
Yeah,
much
you
of the
need a job.
mobsters. Yeah, like I mean, you need more than a job. Like
Got to volunteer yourself.
I have
for
a
work.
job and I couldn't afford to do something like this, right? But so these people who have done these bad things or gotten themselves into trouble or double crossed the wrong people can make deals with this guy, and he gets them out. He puts them into kind of a witness protection program, where he makes them disappear, and he gives them a second chance at life. And so yeah, I was with you on that part. It's the I guess where we like I was assuming these were some type of people with like mob connections or dark world connections or
No, I mean at
something like
one
that.
point in the book he makes a very pointed comment that he stays away from helping people
That don't deserve it.
that don't deserve
Yeah,
it. That I mean, yes, people screw up every day in life, and that's who he's trying to help. Maybe they're running from the mob
right.
because for whatever reason they're in trouble with the mob, but they did. He doesn't help killers. He doesn't help people of that nature, violent criminals.
No, but I mean, so the main guy that he's trying to help out, one of the people, he gets a phone call, and it's from a guy that he has seemingly helped before, and he's in a bit of a pickle, as it were, and he's telling him, hey, just tell my family I love them, give them this message. I just want to do one right thing in my life. Like this man that is calling him just repeatedly says, I just want to do one good thing. This is the good thing finally, and so that's where I read into this. Okay, this is kind of a shitbag. Like he's the cause of all this in some
Which is
level.
also he makes the note that this guy's an exception because he's been a friend of it his
Gotcha.
whole life.
Yeah.
So
So regardless, he does get this phone call to go help him, and while he shows up to this kind of office with bodies littered all around it.
Caleb didn't like the book. He didn't understand it.
Maybe I was just reading some other stuff into it, transferring
No,
some stuff,
it's all good, brother.
but he shows up and there's this room littered with bodies, and the guy who called him standing there with a gun to his head, and he's going to kill himself, or at least he's threatening to. And our boy here, who is the main character, is not a violent person. He's not the kind of person who carries a gun. He kind of does this stuff all just under the table, like weirdly and peacefully somehow. And but as he's trying to talk this dude off the proverbial ledge, he sees in the background this assassin come down, and yeah, big guns and an oni mask, who is just proceeds to wreck shop. And then there's he gets into how his business operations work and goes back and he finds these people. Um, and then jumps back to the current time. There's a lot of time hopping to explain stuff around. Um, Meanwhile, there's this young woman who is working for her father's company. That
She's working
is this
for her father's lawyer.
working for her father's lawyer. And I'm gonna let y'all explain this to me. I don't. I was disinterested apparently, and I knew this chick is working for her father's lawyer. Her father's kind of a perv, gets weird Miss Piggy emails, and you
Oh,
know
so we're kink shaming on the show now.
We're messing with
she
you,
thinks
Caleb.
it's fine. I quit.
No,
I'm
so
going the fuck
yeah,
home.
so yeah, she works for her father's lawyer's company,
Okay.
and she's mad because she's went to college and this is the best she can get. Kind of like most of this generation that's a little bit, jaded by the college
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so in her in her spare time to pass her boring days away, she hacks into her boss's computer.
Right.
And the most interesting thing she's ever found is that he's got a kink that she just thinks is amusing, and uses code words like piggies to uh, as a code word for a prostitute or a sex worker. And sorry, I don't have a deal written out here,
That's fine.
so I'm going off my memory. But she one night breaks into his computer and gets a message from Miss Nobody, who gives her a bunch of information about her father.
Well, and from the way I read it, didn't like post it, like set it up for her to find this information, but it was positioned as an email to her father that she broke in and found, but the person who planted that email there meant for her to see it.
Yeah, she knew she was going to find it. So then she reads all this information. She goes downstairs to get in her car to leave, and Miss Nobody is waiting for her. Tells her that, no matter what, you're not the villain in this story. Your parents are. And gives her some sort of, I'm assuming it's something that knocked her out, a shot that knocked her out. And then it goes back to our main character, the fixer guy.
Who's never named throughout this whole story that I found.
Yeah, I did not either. He's actually going to his friend's house to tell his wife and daughter that his friend is now dead, and finds that the house has been ransacked, apparently. He assumes that it's the Oni masked people have beaten him there, the assassins, but it is in fact the daughter has went crazy and is now killing. She's picturing everybody as a demon,
which assumedly is some side effect from that shot she got in the neck.
Yeah,
and she's just on a murder rampage.
Yeah. So, because it is the same woman.
Yeah, and so and they fight, and that's kind of where at the end of it, it ends the same way it ends, with a phone call, and he answers the phone, and it's this Miss Nobody who looks like a bad 90s knockoff of somebody who played Vampire the Masquerade or was an extra in The Matrix. You've got the Onk Eye t-shirt, really shitty tribal
really
tattoos.
I was not interested.
I was so disinterested after the first page, and it sort of, when it doesn't tell you, there is a narrative trope like when you don't have the character's name, so, and it can work, like it's a device to do things for suspense, things like that. There wasn't that purpose in here that I could find. They just didn't tell you the dude's name.
Oh, I dug that.
I did too.
I didn't.
I mean, what was the dude's name in Breaking Bad that got everybody out of there? Did you know his name?
No, but I think that's part of the purpose. Like, I think that type of mystique and intrigue was built up in that character because you weren't supposed to. They didn't build that mystique and intrigue up. They kind of
the first issue
gave you, well, no, and they may in the second, but I mean, you're planting a seed.
You won't know, because I can tell you're not going.
Oh, 100% not going to grab this next time. Yeah, no, I thought the story was a mess. I thought the story was a narrative mess. I thought it was dejected, disjointed, all over the place.
This is one of the better books we've read as a roundtable.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't a mess. It was very linear.
Oh, I didn't think it was linear at all.
Oh, were you drunk?
No.
I also didn't see the jumping around in time that you. So
no.
It's
no.
The how it works thing, where they're going back in time to, I don't know. I mean, maybe I just, like I said, some stories grab you, some stories don't. I just didn't. This did not grab me at all. The art is gorgeous.
I didn't connect, but you're right that the shot that girl gave her obviously turned her into which is why she said you're not the villain.
Yeah. To a crazy person.
Yeah.
And there's some history there between Miss Nobody and this
Fixer.
Fixer.
Mr. Fixer.
And to how it works. I don't know. Like I said, this is just. No, I didn't find this book intriguing or engaging. I had a hard time tapping into it. But the art for me is just what killed it. I think Bertolini did a masterful job. It's all black and white. So if you pick this book up, his action scenes.
So when you get to the colors, you don't have to say etc.
That's also a plus.
Did that as a favorite.
I really like crime noir stories. So this one, it's a genre that I really appreciate. I like crime noir comics that are done in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, but you put it. Of course, this is not. I mean, this is black, white, and gray, duotone. That I just always like that better.
I feel like it just comes across better. Now,
it's a weird aesthetic that I just.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
My question is, though, so I see the crime noir elements in this, but I don't read this as a crime noir book. Like I think if this was in color, it wouldn't be a crime noir book. Like I think
You could easily put him in as a private detective,
yeah, and
and it,
essentially he is, but like I said, I think there are those elements though, but I don't see this as a like I wouldn't file this, and I think you guys might disagree. I wouldn't file this as a crime noir story. I
I
think it
think
just
we got
has
a
those
good idea where you would
elements.
file it, actually.
Yeah, this
the
is
round
13.
file.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's.
this comic book pantsed Caleb at a party or something.
Did it give you a swirly?
It had too many Yo Mama jokes.
No, it, it's one of those stories that I just enjoyed. I like the fact that we don't know a whole lot about him yet.
Yeah, so
We just know that his job is you give him, and he doesn't say it requires a lot of money, a little bit of money. Um, he does say that you sign over your life insurance policy
Hmm.
to a close family member, and I'm using
Right.
air quotes. So I'm assuming he's expecting the insurance policies to come to him, and that's how he gets paid. More so that he just takes enough money to get them started, and then they have to go off the grid for a couple years. And like you said, you don't get a third chance because it's really hard to kill yourself off one time, let alone a second time.
Yeah.
So, essentially, yeah, he helps them kill themselves and he gives them new life and lets them get started. So, and I'm sure we're going to find out more on what his connection to Miss Nobody is, because there's an obvious connection
Yeah.
there.
There's a history there.
So, I'm intrigued by where it's going and what it's doing, and also the fact that Miss Nobody can turn people into violent, psychotic people with a shot.
doesn't take much.
It doesn't.
Matt's way too comfortable saying that. Number one. Yeah, so I take it by the way that y'all are talking. You guys are kind of sticking with it, staying on it.
I will probably pick this up in a collected edition.
Yeah, I want to check it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Is
not.
what I will do. I'll read it in a collected, or I can sit down and read it all at once.
I do think, like I said, looking at the character designs, some of these landscaping that Bertolini draws out, I think it's beautiful. There's this one scene where she's the young woman is sitting in her office hacking into somebody's computer, and it shows you like the outside and these gargoyles attached to the side of the buildings. You look a page over, and as she's walking through the buildings garage, there's all of these different cars there that Bertolini has drawn out and just put a ton of detail into. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, the art's really a
Yeah.
standout of this book too. So
Well, and you were talking about manga earlier, especially when you get into some of the like the Oni mask and the design of the guns and these assassins. There's a very strong manga aesthetic there that isn't shared with the rest of the book. I mean, the rest of the book, your main character dresses like he's spending the weekend in Miami. He's got loose fitting shirts, wearing a Hawaiian t-shirt. Looks like he took out what's his face was from the Evil Dead's wardrobe. Um, but but yeah, no. So as far as the design aesthetics and stuff, it's what?
you have some interesting opinions
Yeah.
this morning.
Takes. Takes.
Caleb is full of takes.
I mean, he is. He's wearing the whole thing. He's wearing a button-up Hawaiian shirt.
I mean, if you're a fixer, and I don't think he had to dress in a suit.
No, I didn't say he did. I was just describing his outfit for the people who are at home. Yeah, no. So
Listen to Matt and Craig on this show and go get this book. If you like crime noir
and disappointment.
Wow, now you're just being a dick.
How? Yeah, no. Listen to Matt and Craig. If you like crime noir, this is a solid book. It's as we said, it's all done in black and white. The art's outstanding. The story is very linear, and gives you a good setup for where the story's going.
What they said. I'm going to end it there. Tell me
Yeah,
about
you
some.
should.
Tell me about some good comics.
Yeah, we just did.
So, I read a book by a manga creator that we've spoken about on this podcast before, and that's Junji Ito. And he wrote a book that back in 2019 that was just published in America this week. publications. And the book is called Censor. And I'm not going to go real deep into it because it's a 240-page book. So, but I'm going to give you the synopsis of it.
Page
There,
one.
I'm going to read it page by page for you. So, hope you got about 3 hours to spare.
First page, 4 panels, top right.
There's some blue fluid. So there's it starts with a young. She's obviously, even though she has a Japanese name, she looks very Western, and she's walking through the woods near a volcano that's been inactive for 60 years in Japan. It's a live volcano, but it's inactive, and she notices lava hair filaments flying in the air, and what she finds compelling about them is that they are white and not black, as most of the time they're black, which I don't know anything about what lava hair filaments are, but apparently
I know all about them, but we don't have time to really go into
it. Apparently it's after a volcano goes off, some of the lava crystallizes in the air and just kind of floats through the air. But these particular ones are white instead of black. And it leads her to this village. And again, this volcano hasn't went off in 60 years. Leads her to this village, and it's covered in these white filaments, and they are able to communicate with each other mentally in this town. They knew her name. They know everything about her. And the volcano goes off. And the rescue workers show up later. This village is completely destroyed, but she's covered in the filaments and survives. And so this kind of, in a way, becomes an anthology. It follows this one girl's story all the way through, this one woman's story all the way through, but it's told from different people's perspectives. And as you have with Junji Ito, you have some very, very disturbing imagery. This doctor who, for instance, who hypnotizes her, is trying to find out more about her and how she survived this and all of this. Well, she turns off her psychic eye, leaves him, so he just can't quit thinking about her. He's sitting there thinking. He literally turns into neurons and explodes. But before he does, his eyes expand out. It's really graphic imagery. If you've ever read a Junji Ito book, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a cult in here that worships the dark god from beyond, who we find out later is actually the leader of the cult, that has gained so much information from these fibers that he's able to know as much about the history of the universe as anybody that's ever lived.
So he's from beyond because he lives out of town.
Yeah. And it goes on, and you find out more and more history of the village, and that they were actually protecting a Christian saint that had come to Japan before Christianity was allowed. Just a really compelling horror story, done very much in I would say a Lovecraftian type way.
Yeah.
In the way that it unfolds. These people going crazy just from knowing who this girl is. Is she an angel? Is she there to help? Why, what's going on with her? And as it turns out, she is the one that's fighting the darkness. Without giving too much away in the book, that she's fighting this dark, quote unquote, dark god from beyond. Again, what I found compelling about this story is always the art with Junji Ito, but also the fact that it is not a linear story.
Right.
And it's told from different perspectives of different people. Some of them are told through the eyes of a reporter that's investigating her and her story. And so he interviews different people. There's one place where he follows her to, and it's a cliff where people go to die. And there's these bugs that live in this area. And if you step on them, they look like little babies inside of these bugs, but they're the people that have killed themselves. And they start talking to you, and they're telling you, blaming you why they killed themselves, which then causes those people to want to kill themselves.
Right.
It's, very, madness oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But the horrific imagery that you see when these bugs are crushed and they look like little humans inside of these bugs, and they call them suicide bugs because they literally jump under your feet to try and get squished
Yeah.
and get killed. So just one of the wonderful places that Junji Ito tries to take you in the path of this book.
Wonderful place.
Yeah, he's really, really good at taking you to horrific places.
Well, he is, and I think like you picked up on a lot of themes that I think Junji Ito has played really well with in the past too. One of them is he treats things like mental illness and suicidal ideation as if it's an infectious disease. I mean, he did that arguably in the Spiral. That was one of his themes, and you were talking about the cult leaders and the Lovecraftian elements that his book that he came out with a few months ago or last year, Ramina.
Yes.
That played very much into Lovecraftian themes and this spirit, this thing from beyond the veil coming into space and threatening Earth, and it being an elder god, and there being a young woman who was kind of the focal point of standing there in prevention, and was uplifted by a cult as far as a hero figure.
Well, and I forgot to tell you one of the things that happens when the cult leader is attacking everybody that knows her.
Mm-hmm.
Him and his cult, I'll use their hair, are now made out of these black filaments, and they attack the people that they're trying to get the information from regarding her.
Yeah.
And by the end, they are even further crazy than they were when they began, but all you see left are the little skeletons of the people that they attacked after their hair wrapped around them. It's just.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pick this up. It's Ito, it's masterful work, obviously.
Yeah, and the art generally speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Here's I'm showing the guys. Here's a picture of the suicide bugs.
Yeah, not so bad.
Not bad at all.
I assume there's something like that in Australia.
I'm sure there is.
Everything, like 9 out of the 10 things in Australia want to kill you.
Yeah.
But no, so like I just like that there is this, even though each story that Ito writes is different and it feels different, he's playing with these tropes, and he's like, you can tell what his mind, what he spends a lot of time thinking about. And processing and trying to figure out, because the thing about Junji Ito and what makes his work so great is it is dark, it is grotesque, but he is making statements on culture, specifically Japanese culture, and that's hard for us, I think, in the United States to really translate, but it's obviously there.
So one thing he does in this book that he doesn't do in most of his books is he doesn't explain what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily get in it, because Japanese culture in and of itself, evil's just a thing that exists. There's not an explanation.
Mm-hmm.
You can't always beat evil. It is just a thing that exists. And this one, it's very well spelled out for you.
Okay.
And by the way, on the back of the cover, you get to see the dark god from beyond that is the cult leader.
The trade dress to that is fantastic.
Yeah,
like that's one of the better trade dresses that I think that they've done. The purples and the browns.
And as I said, it's 264 pages, I believe, but it's not a long read, as most manga really reads fairly quickly, anyways. Yeah. And most of his story is told through visual storytelling, anyways. But I found this to be one of the more compelling ones that I've read of his, which says a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting some heat online from people that don't feel like it's Junji Ito enough, because he does explain stuff. But I kind of like that you have an explanation on it.
Let him flex his muscles.
Yeah. Let him tell the stories he's compelled to tell.
I don't understand. Like that's kind of like writers that you have to write this particular type of story because it's what you've always written. Nah, like let them. Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But the fact that they did it is not the problem.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I found it, like I said, compelling that it's not the same as not that his stories are ever the same, but you get a commonality in his
Yeah.
stories that, like I said, evil's usually not, not explained in his stories.
Right.
It's just a thing. You usually don't see a bright light at the end of it that's going to solve it.
Yeah.
This one very specifically has a bright light that's going to solve the problem at the end of it. You don't get to see the end of the conflict or the resolution, but you can see that in the future it will be fixed.
Right.
So, I highly recommend it if you like Lovecraftian stories. It's a book you may find compelling.
Without the racism.
I mean, yeah. There's some commentary on Christianity and on cultism in there, and Japanese culture and how they responded to Christianity back in the day. There's some imagery of the saint that came there, San Miguel, carrying a cross up the hill to be pushed into the volcano, along with all of the people that protected him. They're all carrying crosses up the hill. So there's some very pointed Christian imagery in there. Yeah, and commentary on that. And not necessarily right or wrong. He's just giving this is what happened in Japan before Christianity was allowed.
Well, again, I don't think this is the first time that Junji Ito's played with that kind of stuff either. I mean, like that's he's looking at religions of the world. He's looking at the tenets of the religions and the historical impact of a place like Japan.
Well, and when you look at Japan as a whole, in a country that had its own set of rules for religion and its own mythology, and then you introduce Christianity into it, how do those two things conflict, and what sort of demonic stuff did you get out of what was left from that?
Right,
is compelling too. So,
for sure. So. All right. Well, what'd you read this week, Matty Matt?
So the book I'm going to talk about is from Dark Horse. This came out this week. Number 1, Savage Hearts. This is written by Aubrey Sitterson. The art is by Jed Doherty. I picked this up on a whim for one reason. There is a barbarian warrior woman in it. So sold.
I was wondering what compelled you to pick this book.
Yeah, so that character compelled me to pick it up.
Certainly wasn't the name of the comic.
So many things I read contain Savage Hearts, whether it's spelled out or not. So.
I would have guessed it would have been Aubrey Sitterson because you seem to be a kind of a fan of some of the stuff he's done.
I didn't even look at the creator's name when I picked it up.
Yeah.
I saw her, picked it up, and then I got home. I was like, oh, Aubrey Sitterson. Right on. Okay, cool. So the art on this book is very good. This is a you're probably going to put this in the high fantasy category. Lots of bright colors, cartoony type illustrations. The story opens up where there's a beast man, as he's described, hanging out in a very dense jungle. He's bored, and he's sitting up in a tree. Underneath him walks this warrior, this dark-skinned, dark-haired, beautiful warrior woman that I refer to. Her name is Brownwyn, and she is moving through the jungle with 2 companions. They are complaining about being lost, and he is transfixed by her. As he's looking down upon her, he says to himself, my God, she's enchanting, just as she is complaining about the heat in the jungle, and specifically yelling about the leather sticking to her ass. And so he introduces himself, offers himself up as a guide. And the story in this issue is him guiding them through this jungle. What you begin to learn is she has recently dealt with, it seems like recently, or at least it's prevalent on her mind, dealt with the loss of her male companion in battle. And as you move through the issue, you figure out she is carrying that with her, and that's she has revenge and anger on her mind. And they are on their way to an evil wizard's palace. The evil wizard, in her mind at least, is apparently responsible for the death of her lover, and she is revenge bound. So by the end of the issue, the last page ends, this evil wizard is brought forth, and he is aware that she is coming for him, and he has sent his minions, which are like not bird people, but large sentient uh,
Flying
birds
monkey.
Hmm.
that he calls his murder. I thought that was pretty
Oh,
cool.
that's fun.
So yeah, and they went and secured a what appears to be a magical orb that he apparently can use to see the world around him remotely. So now he sees her coming, and he can ultimately prepare for that. But it turned out to be a lot better than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically went in with no expectations. And usually when I go in with no expectations, I usually expect to be disappointed because I didn't know anything about the book. I picked it up because it looks, because of the look of the character.
Hmm.
Turns out it was a lot of fun. It's a very simple story, very linear, very clear what's going on in here. And it's the main character being a barbarian warrior woman. I'm inclined to like it anyway.
Right.
So I'm in for this. I
Is
want
there
to see
any
what this is.
headbutting?
There's not any headbutting. I was not going to mention that disappointment.
First issue.
That's
issue.
yeah,
Give it time.
yeah. She's not really fought anybody yet. They're
Oh,
just
okay.
so to be fair,
Gotcha. That's fair.
headbutting would have been a little
It's
out of
setting
place.
up. Yeah.
I hate to admit that headbutting would ever be out of place, but it'd be a little out of place. So I'm sure the next issue will be headbutts abound.
Yeah.
So yeah, I recommend this one if you're just looking for if you really like the the high fantasy, especially barbarian trope. I recommend this one because it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
So in some of the
I
books
would not have guessed that's what that was from just looking at the cover.
from some of the stuff I've read from Sitterson, his brand of comedy is great. Like, so is this book as funny as some of the rest of his work has been?
There's definitely some good
One-line,
comedic moments.
his
in
one-liners
this.
are solid.
Yeah, there's some good comedic moments in there
Yeah.
that made me laugh out loud. Yeah, but I wouldn't call it a comedy book.
No, for sure. But I
Just
mean,
to be
there's
clear.
just in there for flavor.
But there were some comedy elements in there that kind of didn't see coming.
Right.
Well, I mean, to me, that's the best comedic moments, anyways, or when it's in a non-comedic book.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be like real life moments that are funny.
Right. Yeah. No, it's. I'm gonna check this out. It looks good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'm gonna get on the pull list for it.
Nice. Love it when that happens. Well, I read a book this week that I can't put on a pull list because it's no GN, and there's not another one. But it's a one and done, and it was really fun. It treated me really well, and that book is none other than Jim Lives from the creative team of Paolo Barone and Ernesto Carbonetti. I thought this book was fantastic, and I should say shout out to Adrian West who did the English translation on it. Um, do you guys know what the 27 Club is? I'm assuming
Yeah,
you do,
yes.
but just for the sake of asking. So for those of you who are at home who might not know what the 27 Club is, it's this kind of turn of phrase used to describe musicians, mostly musicians, but famous people who died at the age of 27. And we're talking about people like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Brian Jones.
Jimi Hendrix.
I was like, who's Jimi Hendrix?
Wait, what did I say? Jim Henson?
You said Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, sorry, that's Caleb's political brain crossing over. Jim Hendrix is a state legislature. Jimi Hendrix, sorry. Kurt Cobain, more recently Amy Winehouse, Robert Johnson. There's all of these people who died at the age of 27, and there's kind of a mystery and a mythos built up around that. And the book, this book takes that and plays with it in a really kind of interesting way. So put a pin in that idea just now that we kind of know what that is. There is a section of the coast in Italy where it's just kind of historical only. This is a true fact. I had to Google it, but people there regularly live up over 100 years. Like the longevity and the lifespan of people who are from there and who live there is long. They live for a long time, and nobody really knows how. They've looked at they've looked at their diet. Apparently the level of stress for that area of the world is really low. Things tend to be slower there, but these people regularly live to be post 100. And so this young man who is he's a reporter for a magazine here in the United States. He goes over there because that's part of the story. He wants to go interview people. This is kind of making big news, so they send him over there. to look around and talk to people and see if just to get the story. Well, while he's there, he starts noticing this guy who's out in this little boat fishing at night, fishing for calamari, and he gets a closer look, and this guy's a music fan and always has been a music fan, and the guy looks like looks like Jim Morrison if Jim Morrison had have gotten older. And so, while he's there, he kind of gets closer and closer to the guy, and like he is convinced, firmly believes that this guy is Jim Morrison. So he starts asking around and trying to track this person down. Relatively unsuccessful. People kind of give him the runaround. They don't really talk about things. And then all of a sudden, this young reporter disappears. The night before he disappears, he makes a phone call to his father saying, "Hey, Jim Morrison's alive, and I found him here. I'll call you with more details tomorrow." And then the guy disappears, goes away. And so the father, being a diligent dad, suspecting foul play, not knowing what's up, he flies to Italy to look for his son. And in doing so, he kind of retraces his steps, and that's how you find a lot about what the son found out through the eyes of the father, retracing his steps. And he follows him to where this place that his son thought that Jim Morrison was living at, and where his wife was, and sees all of this through kind of that perspective of disbelief, because he doesn't believe Jim Morrison is there. Towards the end of the story, and I'm not going to spoil how the story ends, but the father, it turns out, finds out that his son was right, that there is something to this, and this is creative fiction, obviously, but that Jim Morrison was there, and there's a well, because it could be told just as far as retracing the steps and explaining a kind of a urban legend, but this one it elevates that, and it says that it would be true. You have to take that kind of caveat, but there's an organization similar to doing what the guy did from the book we read this morning together. That what he does is he takes musicians, famous people who not just the 27 Club, but who are ready to get off the grid. They want to disappear, and this organization hides them. And that's part of how Jim Morrison came to be in this little section of Italy. The book is phenomenal. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting. It takes twists and turns. The book goes on to talk about not just musicians, not just the 27 Club, but people like Bruce Lee, people actors who died young, who are apparently not really dead. It shows where they went and how they got there. I thought it was really fun. If you're wondering what the art looks like, it's this wonderful, beautiful mix of collage of watercolor. There's some weird digital tricks that he works in there. I thought it was great. Everything is exaggerated in just the right ways. There's some watercolor mixed in with the work, so he's using this kind of multimedia approach to drawing this mystery, this detective story, based and rooted in this urban legend of the 27 Club and Jim Morrison not being dead. Equally fun, they they put a bloopers section in the back. I thought it was interesting. So they show you scenes from as if this was a movie. They show you scenes from throughout the book. So in this one scene in the book, these two people were standing on this kind of cliff ledge, looking over a rail, staring out what was going on. In the bloopers, there's a car in it, and it says, "Oh no, a car's coming. Let's stop and let's reshoot the scene." You can tell it was kind of just made for funsies. These guys just want to get together. There's this one scene where the dad is in a bar talking to a biker, and the biker accidentally chokes on his shot. Just nothing else, I guess, but to fill pages. But it was fun. It was a nice little lighthearted element. And then there's some process pages from in the back of the book that kind of show you where they got the design of these characters and how they fleshed them out, and even the landscapes of the Italian countryside. I highly recommend this book. And if you have read, if you haven't read the previous story that these guys did, Paul is Dead, check that out too, because they're playing, like I said, with these rock and roll urban legends where Paul McCartney supposedly was the one who died in a car wreck, and they left all of these so the legend goes, they left all of these clues throughout Beatles record covers and memorabilia. So he's playing with those tropes. This is apparently the second one in line of this. They're making a trilogy of it. I don't know who or what they're going to play with next, but I'm curious to see where they go with it, and who the next focal point, what the next rock and roll urban legend
It
is.
just made me mad enough. I threw my phone off the floor.
But yeah, it's not bad. $16.99 if you pay full price for it. Well over 200 pages, or 100, between 150 and 200. The pages aren't numbered, but fun little book, quick read.
Well over 200. No, probably not.
But between 150 and 200. But fun little read, man. Cool little story, especially if you're a rock and roll fan, if you like the 70s rock, if you like Jim Morrison and some of the mythos around him and how he died and the circumstances in which he died. I highly recommend this. So it's fun.
Cool.
I
Always
enjoyed it.
love those kind of what if stories, like what if they had lived.
Yeah.
I don't love like what if comic books, but I do love the Marvel what if stuff isn't for me.
Okay.
But like the what if so and so had lived type stuff, based on real people, is always compelling to me.
Yeah. They're fun. Actually, so you mentioned What If. Have either of you watched the What If show on Disney?
I watched the first episode. I haven't got around to the second.
I watched this first and second episode. I enjoy it. I enjoyed it a lot. Chadwick Boseman comes back as Black Panther. You get to hear his voice as Black Panther in the second episode, and that was nice. I like the What If stories when you're playing with, and it kind of plays in with why I like stories like this, because it's, we know continuity, we know canon, we know what happened supposedly, but mixing it up, and especially with books like this that take you to the modern age, and it's like, what if that had happened way back then? Here's like 4 decades of fallout.
I liked it until Jason Aaron made it reality.
Oh, yeah.
The original what if
made it
what if,
reality, says Craig.
yeah.
It really happened.
Yeah.
This is Encyclopedia
He
Britannica.
made Moon Knight beat Thor in reality.
Can never be fixed.
Can't.
It's just a pinpoint in time.
Yep. It's a hard day. It can never be fixed.
But no, so yeah, I think Craig, you would enjoy this book a lot. Matt,
Awesome.
like I've never known you to be kind of like a '70s rock or somebody who would care about us. Like you care more about the encyclopedic nature of those stories. So I don't know if this would be up your alley. But I mean, it's fun to look at. So I enjoyed it. So
As straight faced as Matt could say.
yeah, no, just squishing hopes and dreams. But all right, so we are going to end this show as we always do with a little look forward to next week and what's going on in the comics world and things that are going to come out. So these are not guarantees that these books are going to be good, because we can't do that, and hell, we can't even agree on what a good book is. So who can say? But we're going to give you guys a little taste of what's coming out and a suggestion of what you should pick up. So Craig, we'll start with you as we are used to doing. What are you grabbing this next week?
I'm going to grab Norse Mythology 2, issue number 3. I've talked about the first 2 issues on this series, on this podcast, of this series, I guess I should say. This is the start of a new story in this deal, and Thor and Loki stumble upon a sleeping giant who takes them on a journey to the Giant King, who gives them a bizarre challenge to participate in. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Damn.
Yeah.
This is Neil Gaiman, Craig Russell, Mark Buckingham, Galen Showman, Laverne Kaczynski, and Dark Horse Comics. So
Nice.
get out, read it. It's the start of something new. If you missed the first 2 in this series, you can jump right in on this one.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to, I referenced it earlier, but the new Al Ewing series. Also working on this one is Bob Quinn and Stefano Caselli. This is Cable Reloaded. The big gun is back.
Is it Old Man Cable or Young Cable?
Old Man Cable
Old Man Cable.
is back.
So in one of the, just some texture on that, one of the, I forget if it was X-Force, I think, X-Force that just wrapped up, they got rid of young Cable and traded him back for old Cable. I don't know how. There were stirrings about it on the
I am
Internet
a
of
couple
Things.
of issues behind
That was
X-Force.
that was really explained in the Cable miniseries that Jerry Duggan and Phil Noda did.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, so it's we're getting old man Cable from here on out, which is going to be fun. Uh,
Only
one would
because Al
think.
Ewing's writing it.
Well, this next week I'm going to take a page out of our buddy Matt's book and pick up actually I'm going to pick up 4 copies of this because I need to read it. But the 4th issue is coming out, and that is the Invincible Red Sonia. Um, Matt has just preached and preached and preached on why we should be reading this book, and you know what? I'm buying into it. It's all about action as the Grim Reaper descends on the kingdom of Eternia in response to Red Sonja's actions, dangerously destabilizing the realm. And as for Red Sonja herself, let's just say those glowing eyes of her in issue 1 are a clue. So, bum bum bum. This is Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor with Moratat doing covers. What's not to love? So go check out some Red Sonja,
Yep.
because apparently it's the good.
It's
So,
fun.
well, guys, we got anything else? We ready to bring this thing home?
I got nothing.
We covered it all.
I think so.
The whole world of comics has been covered.
There's
this week.
nothing else to be spoken about.
Well, there is a little bit else to be spoken about. If you have enjoyed what you heard, or you want to come tell us your opinions, or you just want to tell me how I'm wrong about the book we read this morning, how Craig and Matt were right, because they usually are, come to our Facebook group and talk about it. Tell us all about what you're reading. You can find us just search in the search bar with Southern Fried Geekery. If you want to see some panels and talk about some stuff and tag us in things, you can do so on Instagram and Twitter. We're at SFG Podcast on both of those. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you just want to reach out to us, but maybe not in a public space, or maybe you're an indie creator and you want to toss us your manuscript or your comic that you're pitching, or you have a Kickstarter coming up, you can shoot us an email at southernfriedgeekery@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. So until next time, we'll be back at the same place, same time next Sunday morning. Y'all go forth and love some comics.
Hashtag Caleb is wrong.
Usually, that should be a hash. Can we get that trending?